So today I'm going to talk about the difference between judgment and discernment. And this is a really big one. This is something that many people are deeply confused about. This is something that from current life and past life conditioning, we've put in our shadow. Our gift of discernment has been put in the shadow. And I want to be one of the people that helps bring it out of the shadow, because we need our discernment. Our discernment is a vital part of our constitution. And so what is the shadow? Well, according to Carl Jung, the shadow is aspects of ourselves that we have disowned. And those aspects could be what we would conventionally think of as negative, but also things that are our gifts. And one might say, why would we put our gifts in our shadow? Well, when we're children, our gifts may get us in trouble or may put us in suffering. So let's say you're a child and you grow up in a very chaotic environment that is unsafe or feels unsafe. You will put away your discernment. You will put it in the shadow, because if you were to acknowledge that you are in an unsafe environment, yet you have no actual physical option to leave because you're a baby or a toddler, like you won't be able to reconcile those things. So in order to be able to cope, you put your discernment away. You say your discernment, which is your ability to feel the quality of the energy that you're interacting with, so that you can move towards more life-supporting beings and situations. Like, your ability to do that gets put in the shadow, because otherwise it would be too painful for you to live with. If you were in your house and you were like, I know that I'm in danger, I know that this is bad, like every second of every day, you'd probably get really sick. And so your intelligence puts it in the shadow. But now it's time to get it out of the shadow. Those children become adults and they repeat their childhood. So they find themselves in dangerous situations, whether it's dangerous partnerships, business partnerships, intimate partnerships, friendships, and dangerous in the sense that like people are taking advantage of you, or people are stealing your money, or people, many things could be going on there, but you don't let yourself see it because you've put your discernment away. And in past life stuff, and I've seen this, I've done very deep alchemical work with people, and I've seen this theme where there's religious and spiritual past lives where we learn discernment equals judgment. And so if I can even detect, or if I can even be aware of something in somebody else that is unloving, like that's bad, that means I'm bad, that means I have to work on myself more. No, that's not what it means. Your ability to read energy is just part of who you are. The universe is energetic, you are energetic, and you have the ability to read what's compatible with you, what's incompatible with you right now, what's coming from love, what's coming from fear. It's like animals have this, you don't see animals running towards their predators. They have this intelligence where even when a predator enters their aura, they become aware of it and they start moving in another direction, because that's nature. Nature is evolving and built to go towards more life and to survive. And so we're more complicated than animals, right? We do project. And although I don't believe that while we're in a human body, we will ever be able to not project at all, according to like ancient texts, we can get up to like the 90 percentile, where like we're pretty damn clear about what we're interacting with, and doing the internal work and meditating and putting your brain waves in a theta state where you're back kind of at the source of creation, and you're not in your conditioned personality energies. When you're lingering in your true nature, your fundamental true nature, you become familiar with clarity and peace and love again. You restore your conscious connection to it. And so when you come back into the world and you're interacting with something that's not that right now, you can tell, right? It's easy to tell. It's not easy to tell, right? Some people really can't see that they're interacting with people who don't mean well for them, because it's all they know. Like, all they know is being around energies that don't mean well for them. So for those people in particular, it's essential, it's so important to meditate, right? Meditation is more important than even the shadow work. The shadow work happens automatically after you meditate, and then there's enough contrast between your conditioning and your true nature, right? You begin to refamiliarize yourself with the vibration of love and peace and all of the qualities of your true nature. And then when you're interacting with something that isn't that, it's obvious, and you decide not to engage with it. So your work gets triggered, right? You can read when somebody's not coming from love. It's obvious, especially if you meditate. It might not be obvious for everyone yet, but it can be very obvious. But then, right, let's say you have a friend that maybe you can tell is going to come out of your life, right? It's been a pattern where they've been like projecting their own self-hatred on you or something. And you're like, okay, I see that. And so you can say something like, you know what, like, we're not seeing eye to eye right now. Let's talk later. And that's it, right? The moment has come and gone. You've made a decision. It's over. But if you extend the experience and you start thinking about it, right? If you start reacting to it, judging the person, a judgment is an opinion or a position against, or a resistant position against another aspect of life, another human being, and anything in life. So there's a difference between just being aware of the quality of what you're interacting with, right? You can tell when a business person is like sly. I've been at so many dinners where I've seen married men, like, you know, kind of eye fucking every woman at the table. And it's like, ugh, that doesn't feel right, you know? And it's like, I don't care, like, live your life. If I were to judge that person, I'd be like, well, that person's a scumbag. And it's like, no, what I do instead is like, I know, like, I won't be interacting with that person anymore. Not for me. But if I had a story about it, if I was like, ugh, what a scumbag, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's my work, right? Now I'm projecting like all of my own stuff at this person who's just living life and just being himself, right? That's the truth. Like, people are who they are, and that's the end of it. You choose to engage with it or you don't, and what you choose to engage with indicates like stuff about your consciousness. So if you repeatedly engage with people who aren't nice to you or who display any qualities that are not in alignment with your values, like, why are you doing that? You might be addicted to being the good guy. You might be addicted to being righteous. You might be addicted to being pissed off. You might be addicted to being offended, right? So your work gets triggered when you react to something, when you react to it and then you have an opinion and a position about it. That's a judgment. Judgment and discernment are not the same thing. I saw a quote yesterday and it was something like, if a man is still judging, that tells him where he has work to do, right? But if a man has discernment, that tells him what he has mastered. And so what that means is you can see something in the world or in your experience, see it for what it is, move on with your life. You don't choose to talk about it, have a judgment about it, talk shit about it. You also don't choose to engage with it, right? What you choose to interact with, like, that's coming from somewhere. If something isn't life supportive or loving with you, why are you choosing it? Ask yourself that question. You haven't mastered it if you're still choosing it. You could stop judging something, but if you're still choosing to interact with it, there's something to look at there. That's where your work is. So I share this message, you know, I saw recently, I'm not a scholar of Kabbalah. I don't know much about it, but I started reading about it recently, and I've heard in that tradition and in several other traditions that Christ consciousness is literally impossible unless we have a balance of discernment and unconditional love. So discernment without unconditional love has a cold quality. It's just cold and judgy, right? And And by the way, there's no need to be discerning everything. It's just what's in your experience. If you go around, the ego can get carried away with anything. If you go around discerning everything, being like, that's that. It's like, what is that? Why are you doing that? That's just an addiction of power, okay? And so the ego can get carried away with anything. But all these traditions say that we need a balance of these things. So discernment without love is cold and judgy. Love without discernment is kind of like idiotic. It's just like, ugh. Like you see animals just like going towards the predators with just kind of this open heart. It's like, no, they use the discerning quality to move away from something that doesn't support their life, which is the classic tale of why people who are experiencing a spiritual awakening say like, yeah, I've had to let go of people in my life because they didn't support me, and I'm no longer addicted to being in conflict with people or fighting with people. I'm done fighting. Like when you're done fighting, you let go. You just let go of things, and hopefully, sometimes they come back into your life, and that's wonderful. But in the tree of life in particular, in Kabbalah, the tree of life is made of these little balls called sephirot. And there's two, and there's one called Gevurah. Well, there's many, but two of them that are on opposite sides of each other are Gevurah and Chesed, which is discernment and unconditional love, or discernment and mercy, grace, and love. And basically there's a line going up through the center, and the idea is consciousness cannot ascend up the central channel, right? Like in yoga, we have the chakra system in the central channel. Cannot ascend unless there is a balance between these two aspects. We need both. Get this out of your shadow. Get discernment out of your shadow. Discernment is essential. Don't you want the ability to move through life and just trust what you feel about something and be able to say no to it if it doesn't feel right? Like, God gave you this gift, use it. And the universe designed us with these qualities for a good reason. We have the gift of discernment for a good reason. If you don't use it, you lose it. And like I said, a lot of times we keep things hidden from ourselves. We ignore what we know. We ignore what we feel. Because maybe if I acknowledge that I'm in an abusive relationship, I'll actually have to lose everything I know. I'll have to figure out life. I'll have to make decisions that I haven't thought about in a long time. I'll have to maybe make it on my own, right? Maybe there's fears that you have that make you unable to acknowledge what you truly know and truly see about a situation because you don't want to face what that would mean for you. If I were to actually see that the group of people that I hang around with are involved in some shady stuff, like, I might lose all my friends. And my friends, if you're connected with your heart, that's a risk you're willing to take, because nature abhors a vacuum. As soon as you let stuff go that isn't for you, stuff that resonates with you takes its place. It's safe to do that. It's safe to acknowledge your discernment. It's safe to acknowledge what you know about things, and it's safe to also say, hey, I might be wrong about it. Like I said, it's only with continuous inner work that our ability to discern becomes really accurate and clear. So just find the balance between honoring what you feel and also having like a promise to yourself, like, I also want to be free and do the work of finding in myself and reclaiming the parts of myself that I haven't integrated yet, that I haven't acknowledged, so that I no longer project my fear onto my environment, right? I don't want to be, that's not what I want. So find the balance between those two things. But again, I'm hammering this in because I had to hammer it in myself. I completely disowned my discernment. I just gave everybody the benefit of the doubt, which is not bad, right? I'm still very open, and I don't assume the worst out of people. I just interact with the present moment, and if it doesn't feel right, I go somewhere else. And if I notice myself not going somewhere else, I ask myself, why am I putting up with this? Why am I tolerating this? We attract what we tolerate. So I'm speaking from experience. I have done very deep work in healing or becoming aware of the reasons why I attracted certain abuse in my life. And I'm very passionate about helping people free themselves from being stuck in that place where they ignore information that's being given to them. So information that, if they claimed it, could help them move towards more love and more peace and more joy. So hope this helps. Have a good day.